Steve, Donald Trump read the words they put in the teleprompter for him, saying that the invasion of Ukraine was bad, but he did not retract his comments about Vladimir Putin being a genius.
The leading agents for Vladimir Putin, his greatest cheerleaders, come from the American right in this moment of a great war crime being committed against the Ukrainian people by Vladimir Putin and the Russian military.
Let's listen to what Senator Tom Cotton said with George Stephanopoulos yesterday, trying to get him to respond to Donald Trump calling Vladimir Putin a genius, calling the invasion genius, which is to say the killing of innocents is genius. Let's listen to how that went.
Why can't you condemn Donald Trump for those comments?
George, if you want to know what Donald Trump thinks about Vladimir Putin or any other topic, I'd encourage you to invite him on your show. I don't speak on behalf of other politicians. They can speak for themselves. I
feel quite confident that if Barack Obama or Joe Biden said something like that, you'd be first in line to criticize him.
Again, George, if you want to talk to the former president about his views or his message, you can have him on your show.
Steve, I think I could actually feel the fear in the air between George Stephanopoulos' question mark and the first words Tom Cotton could bring himself to say.
This isn't just a great national security crisis, a great global security event. This is the defining moral issue of our time. What we have seen, Lawrence, within a living lifetime of the end of the Second World War, a war which killed 100 million human souls around the globe, 40 million of them, upwards of 40 million of them, Russians. The age that was ended by the ending of the Second World War. For the last 80 years, the world, for all its faults, has tried to avoid this scenario. A great power acting aggressively towards a smaller neighbor, trying to wipe it from existence. And the Ukrainian nation has signaled quite clearly that it will not be wiped from existence, that it will fight. And so we see babies being born in subways and bomb shelters. We see old women preparing Molotov cocktails. We are reminded suddenly that the cost of freedom is very, very high indeed. And in this country, we've all witnessed, and it doesn't need debating, a fifth column that's given aid and comfort, that's fetishized Vladimir Putin, that's assaulted American democracy with lies. All of these people all around the world in this Steve Bannon project know each other. And what they all share in common is that the top of the pyramid, the man that they worship, the man they idolize, is Vladimir Putin, who is no genius. He is a war criminal, and he has let loose the furies. We are in the fifth day of a new era. A lot of people will die. The human misery that has been set loose by this man is hard to articulate. The situation will become graver, and we will watch in the days, weeks, months ahead as the world situation deteriorates, knowing that around the world, almost everyone has turned their back on Putin, except for the American right.
So Marjorie Taylor Greene gets introduced at this event by someone who says that, a neo-Nazi who talks about some in the media comparing Putin to Hitler, and he says, as if that's a bad thing. And he laughs, and he gets a laugh from his audience about it because they, of course, think that being compared to Hitler is the greatest, most positive comparison anyone could possibly have. And so they admire Vladimir Putin for any comparison to Hitler. And then a member of the United States Congress walks right in after that, stands up, and very happily joins with that group.
He's a neo-Nazi. Today he was laughing on his program about segregation, talking about how it was better for black people to be segregated, to drink out of separate water fountains, to stop complaining about it. Marjorie Taylor is a disgrace. She's one of several disgraces that are beyond redemption in the House Republican Conference. You know, look, I'm sympathetic to Nancy Pelosi's workload, but I wish she would make a move here to expel Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has violated every conceivable rule of decorum, degraded the institution. It is completely appropriate for the House of Representatives to reject this loon and send her packing, and the people of Georgia can hold another special election and send someone else to Washington, D.C. to represent them.
It's so striking, by the way, to see that fear in Tom Cotton's eyes when he's asked to disagree with Donald Trump on television on the very same weekend that we are seeing a kind of heroism in a politician that I'm not sure we have seen in live television coverage. We never have seen it in live television coverage of a war. President Zelensky staying in Ukraine when offered an opportunity to safely escape, saying, I don't need a ride, I need ammunition, a line that will live forever in the history of courageous lines by leaders in war. That contrast with these weak quislings in the Republican Party is just a stunning thing to see.
Well, it sure is. And what Zelensky has said in this remarkable, magnificent moment of leadership in front of the world, this man is being hunted. Vladimir Putin seeks to kill him. He has not left his capital, and there's a decent chance that he will die there. But this man, at a moment of maximum danger, his message has been to his people and to the entire world, be not afraid. And in this age of cowardice, and in this age of weak men and selfish men and women, people who put the self-interest above principles, above the defense of the birthright that they were given, in defense of the magnificent gift of freedom that was paid for with such sacrifice. This man has reminded all of the world about the cost of freedom, about the dangers in the world, and his honor, his dignity, his courage has shamed so many American politicians, and I suspect so many other politicians in democratic nations who have become part of this autocratic populist movement that's become such a real threat to democracy all over the world.